All right, so Pete Rock is complaining about sampling. And this time it's not about sampling, it's about sampling current or records within a certain time frame. So Pete Rock says they are and this is just via the Instagram post. He says they're resampling rap and R&B records that was made 3 or 4 years ago. Crying, laughing face emoji. No digging for the hits. They're sampling what was already a hit recently. Laugh out loud. Shrug emoji.
I understand what he's saying, and I actually kind of give him some kudos
on the sampling part.
On the sampling part, because the thing about sampling is people had went and dug and found these samples and made them hits, right? So then somebody comes in and just used the exact same sample that somebody dug up and found and created something. And a lot of times they don't even change it. Like, dude, Hitmaker, the one that's been talking crazy about Hit Boy.
Yes.
Like, he has no room to talk crazy about Hit Boy, because all he literally does is take songs that were already hits, sampled hits, and redoes it.
This is true.
So you're not really trying. It's a cheat code, essentially, that he's able to, I mean, there's loopholes for you to be able to get around. As long as you're paying the right people,
you gotta pay.
You can do it.
Yep.
But it's still lazy in a sense for people that actually produce and dig and find the samples. The sample game in itself is an art form.
Agreed.
So if I'm finding these samples, y'all know, y'all do it.
Yep.
If I'm finding these samples and I'm making it sound like this, even if we use the same sample and it sounds different, then okay, that's passable. But if you're doing the exact same way that I'm doing it and passing it off as a hit, like you had that ear for the hit, essentially you didn't have the ear for it.
This got weird for me a while back. When I say weird, it's from a standpoint of me hearing the Drake records that sample stuff from Jodeci or stuff from, stuff when I was a teenager, we were kids.
Songs that are more than 20 years old.
Right. So I understand that. Good call, by the way.
That part doesn't bother me.
But that doesn't bother. But I say that to say, if I'm looking at it from a standpoint of a record that was a popular record or a joint that somebody knows that came out in 2019 that's being flipped,
well,
or 2020. Really
people are doing that.
People doing it more than I think you realize,
because
bro.
I remember Master P doing that. I remember when.
Give me an example.
Did it?
If them feds only knew, if your girl only knew.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even think that song was a year old when he did that.
Nah, it wasn't.
You got me there. You said Diddy Long?
This has been going on forever.
And once again, you don't own loops.
No, you don't.
Go on in loop. You don't own it.
That's just where we're at. I mean, everybody is sampling everything. It's the Wild West out here.
It is. It is.
And it's not like people now in 2023 are the first people to sample samples. It's been going on.
Like, remember when, the next episode, it was maybe 3 years. It wasn't even, maybe 2 years later. And here comes Bag Lady. And we wasn't mad because that Bag Lady slapped too.
It did.
But
it was produced by Dre, though.
Yeah.
Well, did he get credit? Because of
I'm
course,
pretty sure he did.
Because that's not the version that was on the album on Mama's Gun. So maybe I have that mixed up. But I'm just saying the version we by and large know, it was the same sample, I said.
But for the argument's sake, there's very good possibility that it wasn't intentional. Because the
resample wasn't intentional.
Yeah,
because there are people who sample things at the same time.
Yeah, so the difference is when you literally go and you're just taking a record of something that is working and then you're resampling it in that manner. And I literally talked about this last week in my class. So it's I don't suggest anybody do it. And I was literally telling them this exact same thing about how it's frowned upon in hip hop in certain circles because it is. It does. It takes away the digging element that goes all the way back to where digging for samples came from, right? So I don't know, but but at the same time, it's the game has changed.
It's changed, but it's still deflating. I don't know. Have y'all been following the Hit Boy, Hitmaker beef back and forth?
A little bit, but not really.
So I mean, what's the name is talking mad ish based on him taking these hits that were already hits. True. And just redoing the beat the same way.
True. Hit Boy's talking about
this?
No,
not Hit Boy, Hitmaker.
A.K.A. Young
Hitmaker saying that Hit Boy can't make songs for the radio.
Right.
When you're literally taking your whole formula from songs that made it on the radio already and just redoing it.
And not even flipping them. It's
he's doing the exact same.
Exactly.
He's Diddy in it, essentially.
Mm-hmm. And then who says that Hit Boy's even caring about trying to make something like that?
Yeah, you wouldn't do at this 3 hours with Nas if you were trying to get on the radio, and that's nothing. That's not a slight.
He just did an album with Music Soul Child.
Look, if you're gonna ask me, like, number one, do I think it matters, and number two, would I ever do it?
Right.
One, I would never intentionally sample something that somebody else ever has flipped in that same type of manner. Right. Like, I'm not going to try to use the same loop that Pete Rock used and they reminisce of. Like, I would never do that.
Yeah.
Right.
To that point. But at the same time, it's like, do I think that it's really that big of a deal? No.
Okay, here's a crazy one. Okay, and we're going to get back into Just Blaze. Shout out to all of my Bink fans out there who
they about to be upset. They about to be upset for no reason.
Okay, the way he freaked, super freak.
Who, Just Blaze?
Yes, a completely different way than whoever produced Can't Touch This did it.
That's true.
Same song.
He chopped that mug up.
Yeah, he went nuts.
To me, that's not even a relevant conversation.
Just because of the way how different it is?
Because he approached it from a different type of angle. I've sampled records before in the past that other people have sampled, but I flipped different.
You flipped them.
Different way. Like, it's
I think that's the whole point, I think, of the conversation.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what Pete Rock's saying.
They're doing it the exact same way that somebody did. And I kind of G for that, man. That's whack.
I think a part of I agree with that, actually. I think that's the biggest piece of it. But I think Pete Rock, being who he is and the era that he comes from, also feels a certain way about the fact of the digging part, because that's their era. They used to the digging. Like going to dig for. See?
No, I agree. The digging part.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Like, I've heard them talk about stories when they used to go to hotels and they'd rent out the whole, lobby and just have wax in there, right?
Yeah. And
Q-Tip would be in there early and Pete Rock would see them and they trying to get.
Well, they didn't rent the lobby. But...
Well, no, but it was just...
whoever had the wax would be in there and just set up and people would come through and go through the wax.
And they talked about, look, I'm going to go in here and buy everything. It's got to do with an afro on it and see what I can find.
And it was like, I'm trying to get to it before somebody else get to it, right? It's the digging part.
There's a special episode in Hip Hop Elements where they talk about that.
Yeah, so documentary. I think, that's exactly where he's coming from. But the part about the, how you chop, how you flip, I agree with him on that.
Either way, what I would also say is that it doesn't matter. Like, it just doesn't matter because digging has changed. There's a whole new element. There's a whole new virtual. Like, when I started producing in 2001, it had already changed at that point because I grew up with the internet. So throughout the 2000s and stuff, digging kind of changed form because
it's also more expensive to dig now because now vinyl is kind of a novelty.
Well, it just
and a lot of these people overcharge for records.
I ain't gonna hold you. In the early 2000s, when we all grown, but in the early 2000s when I was in college, I used to go to Goodwill. I used to go to thrift shops to find wax. Lone did.
You still can.
We can still do that, but I understand 100% what Lone is talking about. MP3s and music boards.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed. It's YouTube. Changed. It's YouTube. Like, people sample on YouTube, and you can say YouTube doesn't have high fidelity, and you're right. But at the same time, like, part of breaking the sound and that lack of fidelity is kind of a thing now.
Great.
Like, people are screwing it up, and they're adding
a whole
cassette
style off of that.
There's plugins where you can destroy the sound even further. So it's like lo-fi became a really big thing, and the lo-fi sound became a really big thing, even not specifically lo-fi. So I don't know. To me, I get wanting to keep the roots of what digging comes from. There are always going to be people that dig, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but it has evolved. It's absolutely evolved. So, like, from that angle, I can understand where Pete Rock would be
based off his era and where he comes from.
Yeah, but that's Pete anyways. He likes to kind of throw shade in that manner anyways all the time. And
but they're just producers out here that have no records in their house, and I know that.
100%.
That would drive Pete Rock crazy.
Yeah,
100%.
Shoot, I'm looking to take all my records and rip everything off of them and get rid of them because
the clutter.
It's too much.
Look, I'm one of those people who's like, now I barely have any CDs. I have a few records, and I don't have any video games. Because everything is, fine. The only thing is, it's like when I want, a certain game, I was like, well, I gotta buy the physical.
So you've turned in your Both of you gentlemen.
Well, the only reason, okay, I take that back.
But both of you gentlemen have turned in your purist cards. Now everything is digital, and
it's just evolution as a human being, in my opinion.
Right.
And I feel like some people, like when they're apart, like Pete Rock, in my opinion, sometimes he's a legend. He's a
100% legend.
He's a part of a certain thing. He's a pioneer in a certain level, right?
Facts.
So he's going to hold on to that because it's a part of who he is, right? And it's a part of what people define him as. In the same way that white people like to hold on to being racist because it's who they were indoctrinated as. But anyways,
it's who they are.
Well, that's a bar, though.
It's who they are in general, and he wants to hold on to that because it does define him. And so I understand where he's coming from. And I'm not calling Pete Rock racist, but anyways,
somebody gonna miss it though.
But anyways, so I understand where he's coming from. But realistically, why wouldn't you evolve? Because that's the name of the game of life.
As a creative, both sides will pull at you if you're of a certain age. Loop packs, sample packs, that type of stuff, as it relates to being a producer. Like when you hear RZA talk about, oh man, now you can just layer as many tracks as you want, or Manny Fresh talking about a SP1200 and how much they could sample and how short the sample time is. Like, I used to be like, man, I feel y'all, but it's evolution. Now, where I am as a producer, I'm like, I'm starting to see that there's so many more things that we didn't have access to that is a part of evolution. So to your point, you have to be able to make the adjustments and just understand that it's a part of it.
This is a human condition issue.
Yes.
To me, this has nothing to do about music producing. It's about humans not wanting to change because they get comfortable where they at, and when stuff around that changes and they finally got good at something, we don't want to evolve from that because we got good at something. So the only thing that doesn't change in life is change.
Yeah.